Hey, the Everyone Pal here, and welcome back. So today I have another replay for you guys of some of my World of Warships gameplay. And yes, it is another destroyer. I know I promised last time we were going to be getting away from these, trying to get some battleship footage and all that, but this is the single best round I've ever played in World of Warships. Now, it's not like there were some extenuating circumstances. I'll go into that once we actually get into the gameplay, some very favorable matchmaking, but I rocked it. Let's just say this. It was a loss, and I had 1800 XP in a loss. So it was pretty good. The Farragut is also, while it's a destroyer, it's different than all my other destroyer gameplay footage. Everything else I've done has been torpedo boats, mainly the Fujin and the Minakaze, which is a Fujin or a Fujin's a Minakaze for the most part, depending on how you look at it. And a torpedo boat plays noticeably different than a gunboat. While they're both destroyers, it's like the difference between... Well, I don't know what else to compare it to. Let's not make this video any longer than it's going to be already. But playing a gunboat does play notably different. It's more of less of an ambush ship like the torpedo boats are, and more of a positional ship. It's about where you can engage your enemies from and smart attacks. So we're going to go over real quick here what makes the Farragut what it is, and I do believe this is probably my favorite tier 6 destroyer. It's this or the Anshan, which is basically a premium. Where's the Anshan at? Anshan is a premium tier 6 Gremyashki. The Anshan's got slightly better torpedoes, slightly worse guns, whereas the Farragut's got better guns, slightly worse torpedoes. The Farragut's strength is you can really get the turret rotation down to a very, very quick. If we look down here at the main turrets, I have the turret rotating 180 degrees in 9.1 seconds, and it's firing, 13.6 rounds a minute. 5 turrets, 13.6 rounds. These are primarily high explosive guns, so whereas I think I've shown before, using armor piercing, even in destroyers. Actually, I guess I've never shown that. We'll cover that some other time. There's times in some destroyers where you want to use armor piercing, but on the Farragut, you really don't. So if we look here, the difference between our high explosive damage and our armor piercing damage is only 300. We got 1800 to 2100 damage. Whereas if we look at, say, the Anshan, which is tier 6 also, but it is a premium, look at its guns. Now, while the guns on this thing are 130 millimeter compared to 127s, 129s, 127. So 127 millimeter, 130, so only 3 millimeter difference. The difference between the high explosive damage and the armor piercing damage is quite substantial. We're talking 300 on the Farragut. Here, though, we are talking 900. 1100. Wait, 900. I'm doing my math the wrong way. 900, 1600 to 2500. So almost 1,000 damage difference on the Anshan, where on the Farragut it's only 300. So the Anshan, there's some very good points where if you're not going to over-penetrate, use armor piercing against cruisers. Right? The difference is notable enough. Whereas on the Farragut, the difference isn't enough to make up for how few citadels you're actually going to get. So you're going to just spam high explosive on this guy. Torpedoes are reasonably good for an American destroyer. This is where they start to get good. 6.4 kilometers, while it's definitely less than our detection range of 7.3, they are relatively fast with 64 knots. There's 8 of them. Center mounted in 2 quad launchers, so you can launch them on the left and your right. Basically, these line up to be very good ambush torpedo launchers. Sit up by an island, wait for a battleship to come around within 3 to 5 kilometers of you. He'll never be able to avoid him. If he takes even 4 or 5 of these, he's dead from full health. Great little ambush torpedoes. Also, at this tier, now that we're getting up into tier 6, 7, 8, enemy ships, or all ships, are moving much faster, so you can drop torpedoes when you're 7 kilometers away, even 7.5, 8 kilometers away, and since they're going to be sailing at you at over 30 knots, they will cover that distance and still run into them before the torpedoes run out of range. Maneuverability, here's one of the spots, we're not worried about AA. Maneuverability, one of the spots where the Farragut's a little bit on the weaker side. Its rudder shift time is pretty good, its turning rotation is pretty good. Where it's kind of a little low is the maximum speed, 36.5 knots. For comparison, tier 6 Cleveland Cruiser, 32.5 knots. Tier 6, that's the that's what I'm on. Congo, Konisberg, tier 5 is 32.5 knots. The Anshan, another destroyer, is 38 knots. Kiev, he's kind of an oddball, but he's way up there, 42 knots. But as far as destroyers go, a little bit on the slower end. So if you end up making the mistake of sailing directly at a cruiser that's sailing directly at you, by the time he detects you and you see him, you might be within 5 kilometers. You're not going to outrun that cruiser and get away too quickly. This guy's a little slow. You're also going to have a tough time chasing down other destroyers. But outside of that speed, everything else on this ship is just really, really good. Surface detectability of 7.3. Now, some of this stuff is modified. So if we come in here on our captain skills, you'll see I do have the increased gun turret rotation, so plus 2.5 degrees on this. We have concealment awareness. This one here, sorry, the expert marksman, depending on how much maneuvering you do as you sail, you could drop this and pick up last stand. Now, I do a lot of turning. I went with expert marksman, and then basically I picked up the extra superintendent consumable in order to drop smoke if I do end up losing my engines. Hopefully I can get out of there using that. So that's how I have my guy lined up. The Farragut, when I end up getting my commander fully ranked up, although it never stops, getting this advanced fire training for another 20% range on our guns, and then detection concealment expert for another 10% deduction in concealment, then the Farragut's going to be a mean ship. At that point, you're going to have a detectability of about 7 kilometers with a range of about 13 kilometers, 13.2, somewhere in there. Boy, that's a scary ship then. Anything else we need to go over? Just modules. Basically here, your standard, your main battery modification 1, main battery modification 2. So another 15% turret speed rotation. Engine propulsion modification, reduced chance of engine being knocked out, and rudder shift. This one here, there might be some difference in opinion on this. I go with steering gears because now at tier 6, you're starting to see your T7, 8, and on rare occasion, tier 9 carriers. The speed of torpedo bombers on tier 7, 8, 9 carriers is frightening. Whereas at low levels, if you see torpedo bombers coming, you can turn. You're going to be able to avoid them 19 times out of 20, 14 times out of 15, something like that. At higher levels, a good carrier captain is going to bring in 2 waves of torpedo bombers. They're going to drop. By the time you see them, you're going to have less than 3 seconds, and they're going to be dropping them on you. Your ship's going to have a tough time turning. I find having this to be able to turn a little bit sharper is helpful against those carriers, because you're definitely not going to be shooting them down with a rating of 20. Last thing, the module upgrades here, you'll see the only thing I'm skipping is I did not pick up the Sea Hull. The Sea Hull removes this gun here, so you go down to 4 guns for increased AA. Going from, going from 22 to 24 in terms of AA, it's not really going to save you, or 20 to 24. So I just go ahead and kept that extra turret going. All right, let's jump over. We'll get into the gameplay, and we'll pick it up there. Okay, to be honest now, we have to admit something. I did have very favorable matchmaking going into this. Tier 6 in a mostly Tier 5 battle. There definitely are some Tier 6 on the other team, but there's also some Tier 4s, especially when we look at the destroyers. They have a Mutasuki torpedo boat destroyer, Minakaze, Isakaze, or 2 Isakazes, torpedo boat destroyers. Islazov is a really bad Tier 4 destroyer. So while they have a lot of destroyers on their team, none of them are very dangerous. In fact, the only thing on their team that we really have to fear is the Cleveland. So we know right away, just looking at this, we actually have a pretty good matchup. And while the Farragut isn't like a dedicated anti-destroyer destroyer like the Kiev is, it does do very well at taking out destroyers. So that's going to be one of the first things I want to do, is I want to plan to ambush any destroyers I see. Okay, so we're going to start off, we're going to spawn down here, and the first thing I'm going to do, and this is going to be just a strategy that I'm going to use, is I want to get on sea, but I want to get on sea in a way that I have a safe escape. So right from the start, I am planning on heading to this island down here on the far right of sea. And if I play my cards right, I can sneak in just next to it, where I can use the island as a bit of cover. And it's going to do 2 things for me. 1, it's going to make the angle that other ships can launch torpedoes at me bad. 2, it's going to give me an escape. So if I end up in a bad situation, I can pull hard to my right, and I can hopefully escape using the island as cover behind me. Now, in order to do this, though, I got to come in very shallow. So at first, I'm going to kind of head in towards the middle and then cut out. And this is my plan heading into this. This wasn't just something that happened. I was planning to do this. And this is a good strategy to have. Go in with a plan of escape for your destroyer. Go in thinking, all right, they're going to be coming roughly this way. I want to be able to put something between me and them if I need to flee. It'll help you a lot. A lot of times, yes, the fleet will end up where you don't expect them and you'll have to just abandon that plan. But it's good to have that initial starting point to go from. And now here, this is that torpedo range I was talking about. We're going to come in here and we're going to start slowing down. And we're just going to put a nice wide spread down and then a fine spread. And we're going to hope that this Omaha continues to sail in and we get him. And we're going to drop first. Oh, I guess I did the other way. First, I drop the narrow spread. Then I go ahead and I'm going to drop the wide spread. And I do make a bit of a mistake right here. Since I was lining up those torpedo drops, I didn't turn sharp enough. So I'm not going to quite get around that island. Pop smoke. We're detected. We're going to just go ahead back up. And we're going to just sit here for the moment and wait. And that Omaha, 5.5 kilometers. Those torpedoes have good range. He's turned into them. And we're going to get pretty darn lucky right here off the bat. We are going to rock that Omaha with 2 torpedo strikes. And he is gone. Now we managed to back up. We're coming back around. Now we don't want to leave. We want to stay. Almost sail out of it. There we go. We got the capture. Now that we have the capture, we can turn and we can cut smoke and we can get out of here. So we're going to get back up to speed and we're going to put this island directly between us and that Phoenix. More us in that New Mexico, but us in that Phoenix also. And there goes our first friendly ship. That was great. All right, we're going to go ahead. And as we're sailing away, we'll put some rounds downrange. And you can see how quickly those guns turn. They're great. So now that we have this first cap, my objective now is to keep the cap. I'm going to watch for any enemy ships pushing towards that cap and just try to harass them, keep them from being able to get in there. That was the plan. Plan got abandoned very quickly here. And we'll see, as I'm trying to put some rounds onto this New Mexico, using that great rate of fire. So if I can range him in. He's sailing away from me just enough that my rounds are falling just a little bit short. You can see he's got like maybe about a 15 degree away from me. And I notice a DD. DD's rushing our character. I notice 2 DDs rushing our character. So we ping the map, try to get people paying attention to it. We move to engage. Now these are all torpedo boat destroyers for the most part. I see both Isakazis. They're dangerous torpedo boats. Their guns, not so dangerous. So we're going to go and we're going to just sail directly towards them. Up. Now we have all three of the enemy destroyers here. Pretty crazy. Again, I'm dropping torpedoes here. I don't expect these torpedoes to hit anything, but what I'm doing is if they want to try to sneak down south along that line, they're going to have to think twice now because those torpedoes are coming in range. I'm not overly worried about these torpedoes as I imagine they are aimed at that AFK Genevny. So I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to turn away from them a little bit, but we should be good to get away from them without much problem. And we got to get our carrier. Our carrier's in a real rough spot here. This is one of those things where if you play a carrier on this map, it's expected that you're going to go and you're going to move into these island chains here. It's just expected of you. And he played right into their hand. Like they knew there was probably a 70% chance that the carrier was going to go this way. And even if he had spawned north and was coming south, he'd move into these islands. Even if spawned like he did south, move north, he'd move into these islands. So they just went right for him. And there's our second kill. Now we did see there was another DD in there that went somewhere. Where'd he go? Nope, that's not the one I'm talking about. There was a very low health one. And he was chasing. He was down to like 1 volley from being dead. Let's go ahead and see if we can get another volley out there to the Isakazi. And I should be paying a little bit more attention here. Coming through this smoke screen is a Konisberg. And this Konisberg should have rocked me. I'm not sure what he was doing. I'm detected. He should be able to see me. But he's not really. He fired a few rounds at me and then just kind of ignored me. And I don't know why. I mean, I was the easy picking target. Okay. So we're going to move up in here. We expect at least 1 DD is chasing our carrier. So the plan is to follow them in here. The hesitation I have, and what I'm trying to put is, though, it's a torpedo boat DD. I'm detected. If that guy's paying attention, he can predict I'm going to be coming around this island, and he could put the torpedoes directly towards this island and cut me off in this channel. It's a risk, but it's one I feel like I have to go. That Carlisle, it wasn't a Koenigsberg, it was a Carlisle. Gets sunk by a friendly teammate, but we put quite a bit of damage into him. Knocked up quite a few rounds. And there is that other Isakazi that I was chasing. Alright, he's at 1 health, or basically 1 hit from dead. Boom. 3 destroyers, or 3 ships down, 2 of them destroyers. Now, again, predicting torpedoes. So I'm going to go relatively straight directly towards him. That way, if I turn broadside and he launched torpedoes, I'm going to have a much tougher time avoiding him. So I'm going to continue on the way I am. And we see a Phoenix coming around. We're lining up, and our team is getting rocked hard. So, enemy team's lost 4 ships. We've done 3 of them. That's going to be a theme throughout the rest of this video. The Farragut, man, I really like this ship. That gun turret rotation is just great. I'm going to bring this Phoenix. I am about to make my second mistake here as we come out. And this one's a minor one, but it could have really screwed me. You know, a Phoenix, while it's no Cleveland, it's definitely no Atlanta. Boy, they can hurt you pretty hard when you're in a DD. A good volley will wreck you. So I'm lining myself up, and I'm going to try and use the ambush tactic. I'm trying to figure out where he's coming around this island at, if I can ambush him. And so that's why I'm cutting in. I want to get to about 6 kilometers, and then pop smoke and drop him. And it does seem like he is coming around and pulling to his left, which is going to bring him towards me. And here's where I made the mistake. I meant to drop smoke. I hit engine boost. I hit Y instead of T. So for a second here, I thought I was sitting inside a smoke cloud. And then I'm like, wait a minute, why am I still detected? Why am I detected? Why am I detected? Oh, I didn't actually hit smoke screen. And we're going to get 1 good torpedo right on his nose. Take him down. And now this guy actually plays relatively smart. He can't turn away. If he tries to turn away, I'm going to rock him from the side. My torpedoes just went by him, so they're probably got a pretty long cooldown. So he just sails directly at me. Though I'm in the smoke screen, he tries to get me. But the Farragut, being tier 6, just has too much firepower. When he does get close enough that he can see me, it's too late. I have just too many guns. He can't actually kill me. There we go. Alright, so let's get moving now. Nothing on the map relatively close to it. There's a battleship down south, and the Cleveland's coming from sea up. So let's move up here and try and insist. We know there's at least 1 smoke screen in front. So if we move towards A, there should be a DD. And suddenly I'm detected. Why am I detected? We do know other teams mostly torpedo boats, so they got better detection than we do. You know, they're 6 kilometers. So I'm going to sail directly towards them. That way if they drop torpedoes, I have a chance of avoiding. And then about every 20 seconds or so, we're going to change angle. Oh, there goes torpedoes out towards the battleship, and there's the Minikaze. Minikaze, very slow gun turret rotation, very slow rate of fire, but the guns actually do quite a bit of damage. And you'll see this guy actually does decide to shoot at me, which is something a lot of Minikaze pilots, captains, forget to do. They forget they have guns. And that's bad. You want to remember, you do have guns. Well, you can't use them all that often. When you do get into a situation like this, it's smart to use them. So here, I'm changing directions. I pulled to my left, expecting him to drop torpedoes. So I want to get him to drop the torpedoes this way. And then as soon as I do this, I'm going to pull back around to the right. I'm going to just keep on rotating and get going the other direction. So any torpedoes he dropped should shoot past me the other way. Those guns, you see, they do a pretty good amount of damage. But he doesn't have the rate of fire or the turret rotation. Alright. And this should be the... Yeah, this is the Michisuki. So this is the other tier 6. 10-kilometer torpedoes on this guy, but he can only drop 6 of them, and they have a very, very long reload. Like 1 minute, 20 seconds? Something like that? Boom. Okay. It's pretty crazy, you know? Sometimes they just line up for you. And I'm saying that as we're going to come around. We have 6 kills. Our team has 1. Great team. Great team, by the way. Just me and the carrier left. And I'm detected. Now, I'm not really sure why, and I should have been watching my map better, but I knew there were 2 battleships over here in the channel, and it took me a while to realize, oh, there's a destroyer behind me. Again, sometimes they just line up for you. And there's number 7. Enemy destroyer founder. It's just kind of crazy how this can work. And this is pretty much how the game's going to end. We're just way too far behind. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to try to capture A and try to delay some of the pain. But I can't take on 2 battleships, a carrier, and a Cleveland with just a carrier to support me. And the Cleveland here is going to show up on the map here any moment now. Pushing our carrier. He's going to go down. But we're going to die long before that could happen. Yeah. I don't know if I played amazingly well here or if I was just amazingly lucky. You know, half of those ships showed up in front of me almost dead, and I just had to finish them off. But I did put myself in the right situations, in the right locations to fight them as I did. So there's a bit of both in that. This is one of those 1 in 500 games that you have. And now just before we end, we're going to go ahead and we'll put a few rounds down, try to hit that New Mexico, get a few more XP. All in all, though, the Farragut is a terrific little ship. It's just, the guns, the rate of fire for Tier 6, it's a lot of fun to play as destroyers go. I highly recommend it. You know, it's kind of a shame as a Tier 5, not Tier 5, yeah, Tier 5, the Genevny is a terrific destroyer. But then above that, the German destroyers, well, not bad, you know, they become less destroyers and more very like cruisers. So they have other problems there. The high-end American destroyers are just great, but you have to get up to this higher tier. And I don't know how they hit me here. They must have just been firing blind into the smoke, but they got me. But they're not going to kill me, and it is over now anyway. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was just one of those rounds. Until next time, though, this has been Paller. Thanks for watching.